bench. Nigga, where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going? Nigga, I'm in deep like the ocean. I've been in my bag, everybody around me, I'm ghosting. Where am I going? Drop the four in my cup, now I'm floating. I can't feel a thing, to be real, I just go through the motions. Where am I going?
We are going to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Appreciate you guys for joining in today. It's a wonderful Monday. Let's get the week started off right. So, here's the thing. When you talk as much as I do, you're going to be wrong. And we're going to talk about it a lot today. By the way, full 2-hour show. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. When you talk as much as I do, you are naturally going to have wrong opinions. You're going to have wrong takes. You're going to have wrong things you say. You're going to mess up. That's part of doing this. And I'm okay with that. And sometimes it's actually quite fun to be wrong. Because a lot of times when you're wrong, it is proof of why sports are so cool. So the Golden State Warriors won Game 7 against Houston Rockets. And if you remember last week and the week prior, as we were looking forward to these matchups, I said, what do the Rockets do better than the Golden State Warriors? I thought the Rockets were a better defensive team. I thought the Rockets were a more physical team, which would play in the playoffs. I thought the Rockets had more depth. And that besides pure accolades, and the Warriors are going to have accolades better than any other team currently going because of Steph and Draymond alone, that was the only thing they did, quote-unquote, better than Houston. And this is why sports are great. Because Steph Curry said, I don't care about your defense. I don't care about what they do better than us. I'm going to wear the cape. I'm going to be Superman. I'm going to show why I am one of the 10 to 12 greatest players of all time. And he absolutely did. This series was determined. And I know not every game, you don't need the numbers. Forget the stats. Steph had 2 or 3 games where his numbers were really good. He got you 25 plus points, was shooting the ball like crazy, doing Steph Curry things. Every other game, even the games he didn't play well, even the game where they were supposedly going after his thumb, every game except one, which Steve Kerr kind of threw the white flag and pulled everybody early from Game 6, Steph was the guy Houston had to centralize their defense around. Steph was the guy the entire game had to be based around. And he said, I don't care about your opinions. I don't care who's better. I don't care who does what. I'm putting my cape on. I'm going to be Superman. And that's why sports are cool. You could have all the opinions. You could have all the analysis. When it comes down to it, some of these guys just in that moment are able to do these kind of things, and you can't do anything about it. Steph was just better, was the best player on the court, regardless of the numbers, on a 7-game basis. Again, the one game where Steve Kerr threw the white flag and they pulled him out early, fine, you got me on that one. Besides that, Steph was the most impactful player in this series. And this is what Steph does. This is his superpower. When he doesn't have the ball, he is just as dangerous as when he does have the ball. That's probably the most terrifying power he's had as he's accrued the status of greatest shooter ever. The games where he has 30-plus points, fine, those are going to happen. But when he can collapse the defense because he secretly forces 2 guys, because you have to have one guy, which they use Dylan Brooks for most of the series, to play this super tough physical defense right in his face, try to deny and prevent him the ball. One guy can't do that. We've seen that throughout the history of his career. One guy can't do that. Just one guy playing denial and trying to prevent him from getting the ball. That's not enough. That's not going to get it done when it comes to playing defense against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. So what Steph did the entirety of this series was just incredible. It was Superman. It was the reason why we love sports. Because at the end of the day, we don't really care about your numbers. We care about the guys on the court, the guys on the field, the guys who can perform. And that's why Steph is great. Again, I don't have to know a single statistic of what he put up during this series. But when this series was basically over, when it was game 4 and Steph gets the ball He's walking it up the court. And I'm sorry, they got somebody else has the ball. Steph says, "Hey, give me the ball," and he goes, boom, 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 dribble, dribble, behind his back, hits the jumper. That was and Steph started, getting hyped up. That's Superman. That's why sports are great. We don't want sports so that someone can go, "Oh, look at his 30 points per game," and look at it. Luka probably put up way better numbers than Steph Curry in the first round. Where's Luka? LeBron probably put up better numbers than Steph in the first round. Where's LeBron? There's multiple guys, multiple playoff performers who probably put up better statistical fronts over their first games or the first round than Steph Curry did. But Steph Curry, because he has access to that Superman ability, even at his advanced age, and we haven't, and I say this all the time with Steph, but this is what's really incredible too, is we haven't even seen real late game Steph Curry. Because Steph is still a primary ball handler. Steph is still the top scorer on this team. Steph still does so much for the Warriors. Versus if they had another guy who was, we see glimpses of it, when Jimmy can be dependable with the ball and Jimmy can initiate some of the offense and Steph can just sit in the corner. That's when he is the late stage version of him, which is I can put the greatest shooter ever off ball, which is where every other great shooter ever has been in their career, and I can let Jimmy run the offense for a handful of possessions. I'm not saying I think the Warriors lose in this next round. Again, I didn't pick them to win in the first round, but that's what makes sports cool. They didn't care about my opinion. They didn't care about the opinion of anyone else. They didn't care about the numbers. They didn't care about the analytics. They have Superman on their roster, and Superman went to work. And that's why they won their first round series against the Houston Rockets. And shout out to Houston, because Houston is going to be here again. Ime Udoka is a great coach. He's now gotten 2 franchises. He obviously was helped build up that early Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown team with the Celtics. And then obviously now Jalen Green, Sengun. I think this Rockets team will be back. They were probably too young to make a significant run anyway. But shout out to the Rockets, Ime Udoka, what they built over there. You lost to Superman. It's okay. In the history of sports, Superman generally finds a way to come out on top. Transitioning from there to a team that I just keep putting down and a team I don't give nearly enough respect, or the league's not giving clearly enough respect, the Indiana Pacers take game 1 against the Cavs. Now, I'm personally not going to say this means they're going to win the series. I think Cleveland, I said yesterday on group chat, I think Cleveland wins in 5. I'm going to stick on that opinion. Maybe it goes to 6. We'll see. But I'm firmly confident Cleveland will win the game. Just as much as we just talked about Superman, what the Pacers are doing is the kiss my ass strategy. If you've ever just played a game of pickup basketball in your life, and you are clearly the underdog, that galvanizes teams. That galvanizes people. When you're clearly not supposed to win. A lot of high schools do this, where they play a varsity versus a JV game, or a varsity versus a freshman game. And it's a practice or a scrimmage. And man, are those freshmen and JV guys playing with the hair on fire. Because they know they're not supposed to beat the varsity team. The varsity team is bigger, stronger, better, older, all that stuff. But they galvanize around the fact of everybody thinks we can't do it. Real simple David Goliath type stuff. Tyrese Haliburton was voted the most overrated player by this anonymous poll that they put out every single year. And I think this is his second time being in the top 3 of most overrated. And the Pacers don't give a rip. The Pacers are showing up. Their guys, they're galvanizing around their guys. Haliburton is trying to prove a point. Like, hey, you guys think I'm the most overrated person in the league? Let me show you. Putting up consistent multiple 20-10 games in terms of points and assists. Miles Turner is playing well. The defense of this team, Obi Toppin, like this team who might be the most talented team we just don't talk about. We spent all year talking about the Thunder for obvious reasons, the Cavs for obvious reasons. We talked about the Lakers a lot post the Luka trade, and just what naturally comes with LeBron. All these other teams that we've discussed, the Warriors post Jimmy. not a lot of attention and time was given to the Indiana Pacers, who had one of the best records in the NBA, especially after the All-Star break. And we just don't talk about Tyrese Haliburton. We don't talk about the Indiana Pacers. But what they're doing right now, again, when the entire world says, no, I don't think you're good enough. No, you can't do this. No, you're overrated. When it comes down to what sports are at their core, I can line up me, my guys, versus the world, and we can go settle this. Again, you don't need to be the strongest. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't need to be anything. We could just, it's very varsity versus freshman, varsity versus JV. You guys all want to be the varsity team? Go for it. We'll lace it up. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you could be the varsity. You could be the number one ranked team. You could be the number one seed, as the Cleveland Cavaliers are. And we'll go into your home, and we believe and we can galvanize this 10, 11 guys, and we can go win this series, and we believe we could steal home court advantage, and that's exactly what they did. Now, again, I don't predict them to win this series. I think the Cavs will bounce back. I think the way Donovan Mitchell's kind of always been in this category of Donovan Mitchell's always been an underrated superstar. But again, when you're two teams that you've played for, Cleveland and Utah, kind of comes with the city. You're not going to get the same glamour as if you were doing this in LA or you're doing this in New York. But again, this is why sports are cool. And again, both these series I'm starting with, I was wrong on both, and I don't care. Because this is why I watch sports. I get to see the Superman in Steph Curry. I get to see the underdogs in the Indiana Pacers and Tyrese Haliburton. And you let that stuff play out on the court. Let that stuff play out on the field. That's why this is fun. It's not fun because you can analytic your way to an NBA title. Look at just the way the playoffs have gone. The playoffs have been defined by teams being tough, teams being physical, teams figuring it out. It's not just who is, for the first time in a long time, it's not just who shoots the most threes. We're going to talk about Greg Popovich later in the show. But Greg Popovich, again, I quote this all the time. He got annoyed with coaching during the late 2010s because he looked up and said, why is every game just, who hit the most threes? It wasn't who won the rebounding battle. It wasn't who was playing better defense. It was you looked at one line in the box score and said, that's who won the game. And we're not doing that with the Pacers. We're not doing that with the Warriors. You're seeing teams. You're seeing players step up. It's been a really fun playoff so far, man. When we come back from the break, the playoffs are not for everyone. And you're seeing that very clearly. Clippers lose Game 7. James Harden does what he does best, which is not show up in the playoffs. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. is the show. Here's the thing. When you talk as much as I do, you're going to be wrong. And we're going to talk about it a lot today. By the way, full 2-hour show. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's not just who is for the first time in a long time. It's not just who shoots the most threes. We're going to talk about Greg Popovich later in the show. But Greg Popovich, again, I quote this all the time. He got annoyed with coaching during the late 2010s because he looked up and said, why is every game just, who hit the most threes? It wasn't who won the rebounding battle. It wasn't who was playing better defense. It was you looked at one line in the box score and said, that's who won the game. And we're not doing that with the Pacers. We're not doing that with the Warriors. You're seeing teams, you're seeing players step up. It's been a really fun playoff so far, man. Win the rebounding battle. It wasn't who was playing better defense. It was you looked at one long time. It's not just who shoots the most threes.
Like my nigga, why you recording a baby shower on your stomach? What angle is this?
That shit is crazy. All right, let's go.
Two plates.
Ain't no. I'm not putting sour cream on nothing. First of all, that's not happening. If you think I'm using the sour cream at a freak off, first of all, if you think I'm eating any, like, nah, that's not.
The food is the crazy part. I mean, the food is just open, like it's just there.
I'm just gonna assume everything roofie.
Everybody ass naked in here. Stuff touching stuff, and the food just open.
Like when they were pulling out being strong to go grab a spoonful of rice or some shit. Like that shit is crazy.
Nigga, actually, do you want something? While you in there with two other people, y'all want anything?
What you say? He waiting in line for the train, eating the motherfucking taquito or some shit.
That nigga got to play the yellow rice and beef. Talking about, let me know when y'all finish.
Hey, when his turn come up, he tell the nigga, hey, hold this.
he hurry up, start eating the shit off spit.
Yeah, he see he's coming up. He eat fast as shit.
Like my.
Oh man, this is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. So again, we got a full 2-hour show today. Really excited, and it should be the premise going forward is that as long as I can make this work, is we'll be doing 2-hour shows. So it won't be as confusing when I say top of the hour, top of second hour. So the playoffs we know are not for everybody. The Clippers lose to the Nuggets. James Harden does very typical James Harden stuff. And look, man, I'm gonna beat analytics down a lot today. But one of the stupidest arguments I've seen, and I've always been against this side of the argument, that James Harden, who is an all-time player in the regular season, an all-time scorer, a guy who averaged 36 a game for a season before, right? Great player. But he's not that guy in the playoffs. And while I am not, playoffs 100% define you, if you went to enter the conversation with Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, and we're way far away from Michael Jordan, you need something on your resume for the playoffs. You don't got to be the greatest ever, but you need something. Harden doesn't have even something. His best accomplishment is going to be they challenged the Warriors one year. Now, in my opinion, I don't think it was ever a true challenge to them. I think the Kawhi Spurs, that when Kawhi got injured, I think that was actually the biggest threat to the Warriors during that run with Durant. But neither here nor there, I'm not here to argue that. Harden again in Game 7, who has, that's the other thing too, you can't just not, it's not just that Harden doesn't play well. He has all-time bad moments. The 27 missed consecutive threes, not all him, but his team. The Game 7 scoring average. The woeful shooting percentage. The losing to San Antonio. The losing 4 Game 7s with 4 different franchises. And you've never played great in a Game 7. Again, you don't have some playoff-defining moment. Your best moments are when you were the 6th man in OKC at the very beginning of your career. And again, I said I'm going to kick analytics in the head a lot today. There's been an ongoing conversation over the last 2 to 3 years of James Harden versus Dwayne Wade. And I have pushed back on this as much as you can. I don't think James Harden is close to Dwayne Wade. Again, you don't have to be the greatest ever in the playoffs, but you can't be as bad as Harden has. And you can't not have a single signature moment. Take Giannis, for example. Giannis has the signature playoff run that even though, yes, the last 3 to 4 years have not ended the way they've wanted to, multiple first-round exits, we've seen Giannis do it in the playoffs before. We've never seen Harden do it. We just haven't. And so it's when I saw Dwayne Wade, I'm old enough, where I saw him in the finals before LeBron James going crazy for 30-plus points a game. These two players are not the same. And I was triggered by this. I saw numbers. It said in elimination games, and it pulled up Kobe stats, Dwayne Wade stats, and James Harden stats. And this is why numbers can be 1,000% misleading. I know men lie, women lie, numbers don't. No, numbers can lie. Numbers can misrepresent themselves. Again, I don't care what your quote-unquote points per game or true shooting percentage in these elimination-type games are if you keep losing all your elimination games. Kobe won several elimination games. Dwayne Wade won several elimination games. James Harden in elimination, go look at his record. Again, I try not to beat down on guys. I try not to be the person, I don't come here just to be negative. Let me kill someone. Let me attack them. But you know who's getting killed today in LA? It's James Harden. And I believe rightfully so. You know who's not being killed? Kawhi Leonard. Because we've seen Kawhi, and I don't know what, and again, numbers don't matter. I don't know what Kawhi averages in elimination games. I don't know what Kawhi averages throughout his playoff career, but I've seen Kawhi be the best player on a championship team. I've seen Kawhi, when it really matters, him perform, him lead his team and get all the way to an NBA Finals, not just once, but twice. Again, don't know what his numbers are. Don't care. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've never seen it with James Harden. So I've never thought the comparison that, oh, he's better than D Wade. Oh, he's, and James Harden is a top 5 shooting guard of all time. But there's levels and there's gaps to stuff like this. And even though, as someone who predicted the Clippers to win their first round series, Tony and I both picked the Clippers. And we were texting each other. It's like, we really placed our belief in the team that employs James Harden. That's on us. That's not on the Clippers. That's not on anybody. You can't blame anyone else. That's on us. We got to take that one. They employ James Harden, and we've seen consistently what James Harden does in the playoffs, in big moments. He's just not the guy that you can rely on. Again, I'm not throwing out stats. I'm not throwing out a bunch of numbers. I don't know what Kawhi's numbers are in the playoffs. I don't know what Steph's numbers are in the playoffs. I don't know. I just learned this weekend they were showing highest points per game ever in elimination games. KD's number 1 all time. I had no idea. No idea. I've seen KD when he was with the Warriors light up the NBA Finals. I've seen KD in multiple playoff series light the other team up. Had no idea what he averaged. Again, numbers, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. But numbers can 1,000% misrepresent a situation. And if we weren't already there, please, please, please let us kill the James Harden, Dwayne Wade conversation. It's not close. It's not real. It just, the argument doesn't need to be had anymore. It's over with. It's done with. Let's keep it going. With that, let's get into not serious. So I need to get Tony to record that for my little interlude. So not serious, you know what time of the day it is. Not serious times where we take all of these certain topics that I hear throughout the week or over the course of the day, and the ones that I just don't believe are actual conversations, nor teams. Sometimes we got to go at teams who are just not serious. I want to do this one first, and I really like the player, but John Morant is not serious. Kids, when they lose, say, well, I wasn't trying my hardest, or well, I wasn't doing this, or, oh, well, you're lucky that I didn't have. They make these really neat, quick excuses. Now, Ja got hurt, which is a legitimate reason, but the idea that Ja's saying, well, I figured the Thunder out. Bro, you were there when they lost by 50. Your team lost by 50. You were there. You were there in game 2 where you again got smacked. And even in game 3, before you got injured, you were on the way to losing again. Yes, you had a 29-point lead. Like, you got to think about the Grizzlies lost both ways that are horrible to lose. Lose by 50 in game 1, where the other team just proves you are not in our league, you are not of our caliber, you are not nearly as good as us. And then you lose the other horrible way, which is you get up 30. I think 29 was actually the highest they got up. You're up 29 points. Game 4, your season is on the line, because if you lose no more games and you give up the 29-point lead, and then the only response you can have as the leader and the best player on your team is, well, I was starting to figure him out. That's a very unserious basketball player. I'm sorry. It's just a very unserious. We have a lot of unserious point guards at the moment. Between Ja, Trae Young, who, again, Trae Young came out last week and was talking about, well, the play-in's a stupid idea because we have 82 games and we lost out on being a playoff team because of 2 games. Don't lose to the Miami Heat, who aren't even a real playoff team, who are 10-plus games under 500. LaMelo Ball, there's a million LaMelo. We could just call this the LaMelo Ball category or the LaMelo Ball section because of how many unserious things he does, both on the court and off the court. So we have a lot of unserious point guards in the NBA. And so, John, again, the whole, I was starting to figure him out. They got lucky. No, the Thunder are, if not the best, at worst, the second best team in basketball. They were kicking your ass while you were there. They would have kicked your ass whether you weren't there. Like, they were going to win that series anyway. Just take it and go, hey, we're going to be back next year. We're going to be better next year. Just a very unserious moment. Another unserious conversation is, and I'm going to have a full segment about this, but can we stop all the sheduer talk? Look, man, there's going to be a million different stories. And I just want people to move on. There's going to be a million different stories. Now they're talking about, well, he bombed the Giants interview. It's like, well, actually, he was pissed off at the Giants because they, quote unquote, set him up and he was, reading a playbook but didn't understand something and was mad that they called him out or held him. Like, we are going to get a million different stories about why sheduer Sanders slipped in the draft. And it is historically, it's a unique kind of fall. Because while we have, yes, Aaron Rodgers, who was supposed to be first-round quarterback, still stayed in the first round but dropped to 24. Dan Marino, who, again, first-round quarterback, dropped into the 20s. Like, it's very rare. Where he got drafted is where guys who are not projected first-round picks go, with the exception of maybe some all-time injuries. The Florida State quarterback who just had to retire, DJ, and that was because he was projected first-round pick, obviously had the horrible injury, which ended up ending his career, and he just retired here recently. Within the last week. So sheduer's fall is obviously going to get attention because it's not something we're used to seeing. But all of these stories that are coming out, there's people who sheduer is perfect clickbait at the moment. You talk about sheduer Sanders, you're going to get clicks, you're going to get views, you're going to get ratings, you're going to get all these things, and that's just what comes with the last name. That's what comes with the player. He was one of the faces of college football and everything they did there at Colorado. But let's stop all the stories. It happened. Let's move on. We're going to have a full segment about this and what I really think is going to happen with sheduer, and that's going on later in the show. But all of these stories that are coming out, like, come on now. Like, let's be serious. Please, can we be serious for, like, 5 seconds? That's all I want. And then the last bit of not serious. The ability for, like, power rankings aren't serious, guys, especially right now. There's a lot of unserious power rankings. Now, I did a power rankings for my top 10 NFL teams. Like, off-season power rankings generally just are not a serious matter. I did one last week, and again, mine, you should go check it out on YouTube. Again, I could fall into the same boat. Not the most serious thing in the world, but the reality is, when a lot of these teams don't know, we're just kind of basing off how good were you last year, and did you have a good draft, or did you have a good free agency? A team I love, my Broncos. I saw some of them are as high as 5, some are as high as 4. Like, we don't really know. We're doing a lot of projecting, and while yes, it's fun to talk about, if you see your team and they're low on a power ranking, or that, like, I know Saints fans are upset because they're 32. Who knows? You might be the worst team in the NFL. You might be in the mid-20s. But at the end of the day, does it matter that much to you as a fan? Like, if you're the 24th, or I guess in this case, if you're the 8th worst team in football versus the 3rd worst team in football, did you have that much better of a season from a fan perspective? Did you enjoy it? Was your experience that much better than the 7 teams below you? When you're already at the bottom and you're arguing from a bottom perspective, is it really worth it? Is that a serious conversation you want to have with another fan base? Is that a serious conversation you want to have with other fans, with other people? You're bad, you're bad. If you're horrible, you're horrible. And those bottom 5 to 6 teams are usually all horrible, regardless if they're the 31st ranked team or the 26th ranked team. Very unserious kind of conversation. When we come back, why we are going to get some really, really nasty MVP conversations with this second round series, OKC Denver. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily.
in my bag, everybody around me, I'm going.
I'm going to stick on that opinion. Maybe it goes to 6. We'll see. But I'm firmly confident Cleveland will win the game. Just as much as we just talked about Superman, what the Pacers And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So, the MVP conversation is about to get really, really nasty. Now, I've said this multiple times that part of the problem with the MVP conversation is that they've never given us clear guidelines, which to some degree is intentional because they want this to be entertaining. They want this to be a story. They don't want it to always be best player on best team, nor do they always want it to be best player in the league. They want to kind of move it around that makes it more interesting, more exciting, more time to talk about it for people like me. Whoever your MVP was a week ago, stick with that. If Jokic was your MVP because you thought the numbers you were putting up were just next level, and in my opinion, I think the Nuggets are not I don't think they're a championship contending team, but again, even though I picked the Clippers in the first round, I found myself rooting for the Nuggets halfway through the series because Jokic to me is just that great of a player. I enjoy watching him play. So, with that said, though, if he was your MVP a week ago, that should still be your MVP. If SGA was your MVP a week ago, SGA should still be your MVP. We are going to revisionist history this like crazy because the Nuggets and Thunder are going to play in round 2. And remember, the story has always been, this entire season, is SGA the MVP? Not, is SGA the best player in basketball? No serious conversation has been, is SGA better than Jokic? They've all been focused around, is he the MVP of the National Basketball Association? I think he is the MVP. Again, I wouldn't be mad or upset or outraged if Jokic won it because Jokic's numbers are ridiculous. Average a triple-double, which, in fairness to him, he's basically averaged a triple-double the last few years. If you look at his assist, he's been pretty much right there around like that 9.7, 9.8 range. But this year officially got over 10. Average triple-double as a center. It's incredible. He's the best player in the sport. And if you want to go with whose team could afford to lose him less, I truly think I think the Nuggets would fall apart if Jokic wasn't there. Versus I think the Thunder are supremely talented and realistically stacked when it comes to how great that overall roster is. But when you're the 68-win team, you're the guy who leads the NBA in scoring, yes, I'm not upset with you if you win MVP, and SGA would get my vote. But no one ever said he was better than Jokic. No one's ever said, man, he's the best player in the league. And so if he was your MVP, and I don't care, if this series, let's say the Nuggets upset the Thunder, are we now going to change? I've always hated the LeBron D. Rose conversation. Derrick Rose, when he won MVP, 10,000,000% deserved it. Just because he lost to LeBron in the playoffs does not mean he did not deserve his MVP. LeBron was a better player, and that was never up for discussion. LeBron's been the best player in the league multiple times. All other guys have won MVPs. Mike's been the best player in the league with multiple guys have won MVPs. Kobe, Shaq, go down the list. The all-time greats have been the best player in the league and not won MVP every single year. Tim Duncan only has 2 MVPs. And Tim Duncan is one of the all-time greats. So this conversation, it's going to get dragged out. I promise you. It's going to get dragged out. Should Jokic have if the Nuggets win this series and they upset the Thunder, which I don't realistically think can happen, but, I've seen again, I'm not going to discount Jokic. I will give him his credit. I'm going to kind of be previewing at the end of the show who I think is going to win in the second round, obviously because a lot of my bracket has fallen apart. But I will give Jokic the puncher's chance the same way I gave it to LeBron, the same way I tried to give it to Giannis this year, of when you are that great, when you employ the best player in the series, which I think the Nuggets do. I think the Thunder employ probably 2 through 6, but again, we'll talk about this later in the show. If Jokic was your MVP, stick with that. If SGA was your MVP, stick with that. This series should not change because the conversation has always been around MVP, not around best player in the sport. That's just the reality of it. If Jokic was your MVP or SGA was your MVP, stick with that pick. Don't try to change it around. I want to hit on this too as well. So a lot of stuff happens when it happens in the playoffs. People go, what should they do? This isn't a team subject, and I don't want to make it one, but I really wish online simulators made or people that propose trades were being realistic here. Or I'm going to save this one. Actually, I'm sorry. I just saw this. Want to address this real quick. Luka, there's now talks about should the Lakers do something funny with his contract? Should they put a wait clause? Should they put a games played clause? And the answer is no. The answer is no. Luka is the future for the Los Angeles Lakers, and you are going to go only as far as he is willing to take himself mentally, physically, all the things. Because we know he can score. We know he's 25, 26 now, I think, sorry. He's in the prime of his life. If he can't get in shape trying to be the best player for the Los Angeles Lakers, where he's going to have a chance to be, I don't think he is, but he's going to have a chance to compete for that face of the NBA spot. He's going to be a guy who's going to get mad primetime TV. The world, at some point, you're going to hear it throughout the next 2 to 3 years at multiple different points. We're going to call Luka Doncic the best basketball player in the world, whether he is or not, because he's going to be the best player on the Lakers. And because of that, you do not try to do funny stuff with his contract. And to the Nico Harrison of it all, yes, the Lakers lost in the first round. I'm not giving Nico Harrison some kind of magical credit now because the Lakers lost in the first round and that somehow proves that he was right. You don't trade Luka Doncic. I'm sorry, because the reality is trading Luka, even if you're right, you're wrong, because even if Luka, and I'm kind of still in this line, so that was funny, but it's so true. Even if Luka was literally 300 pounds and drinking beers on the court pregame, and to say, oh, well, he's fat, out of shape, and doesn't have the work ethic, all you're really going to do because you traded him is now turn him into the guy that goes, oh, I'm not going to be, because even at 300 pounds drinking beers before a game, he might still get you 25 a night, which would have been the best player on the Mavericks. Now all you've done is turn him to L.A., where he's going to do everything in his power, theoretically, to prove you wrong. And last I checked, losing in the first round, while it does suck, and it wasn't the expectations the Lakers had as the 3 seed, where are the Mavericks? Are the Mavericks in the playoffs? Or did they lose in the play-in? So I don't want to hear it for the Nico Harrison defenders. But the Lakers, the idea that you're going to play funny with Luka's contract, I think is ridiculous. Pay the man. He deserves it. He is one of the best players in the league. While he might not be my favorite player or a guy I would love to build this franchise around, again, go to my franchise. Zion is not nearly as accomplished, has weight issues, has health issues, but every time you see Zion, he looks like he's in amazing shape. He's this extremely muscle-bound, large human. And Zion has not had near the career that Luka Doncic has had. So don't play funny money with Luka's contract. Just that's your guy. That's the face of LA. That's the face of Los Angeles basketball, Laker basketball. Don't try to be funny with his contract. And let's not revisionist history Nico Harrison. You don't trade Luka Doncic. It's just that simple. When we come back to start hour 2, it is Monday, so we have to hit our hard left, hard right, as well as loving the physicality that is currently taking place in the NBA. This is HardFoul Radio. We will be back momentarily. And it is hour 2 of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody that is tuning in with me today. Again, we are officially on 2-hour episodes, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. Don't forget to also go check out Group Chat Podcast. That is dropping every Sunday. A&M drops every Thursday night. And 90 Feet as well. Don't forget to check those out. We got everything you need here at HardFoul. We got anime, we got sports, we got baseball, we got hip-hop. We got it all, man. Appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. Shout out to all 1,040 of you that are subscribed, and shout out to all of you that will soon be subscribed. Catch subscribers before they hatch. Speak it into existence. Oh, man. So, it is hour 2, which means we got to get to hard right, hard left. But before we do that, let me just say, no, we're just going to get into it. It is another Monday on this beautiful earth. That means we start off hard right, hard left, what I feel I got the most right and what I feel I got the most wrong from the previous week. I say a lot of things. It's only fair to hold myself accountable. I don't mind being wrong. I just, I say what I think, and if I'm wrong, well, we live with it. So, with that being said, let's start with hard left. I was really, really wrong about the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, I've been saying, and I truly believed this, that if you have an all-time great player, and Giannis, make no mistake about it, is an all-time great player, that you can beat the lesser teams almost automatically in the playoffs. LeBron did this for years. Obviously, LeBron is on the high end of all-time great players. Jordan's done this. When you have an all-time great player, Kobe, Duncan, Shaq, even someone like Dwayne Wade, if you want to go like a tier below, I just think you're going to win. You could make an argument. What Jokic just did with the Nuggets was all-time great player in Jokic playing another guy who's borderline all-time great player in Kawhi Leonard, who, because of injuries, who knows where we're going to end up ranking him long-term. But a guy who was able to just will his team in that series. We've seen Steph do it with the Warriors. Giannis was the only guy, though, that didn't get it done. And that's got to mean something. And I love Giannis. Giannis is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. I was big on Giannis as the best player in the NBA several years before Jokic took that spot. And there's a real argument, and we're going to talk Will later in the week. Will probably has Giannis above Jokic because the value of being an actual two-way great player, which Giannis is. Giannis, we're going to look back at some point in time and go, wait, the guy who was averaging 30, 12, 6, playing great defense with multiple blocks a game was never in contention to win an MVP over this 4 to 5 year span? And the reality is yes. He was never in contention to win an MVP because we watched the games, we saw the impact, and the impact is just not there for whatever the reason is. And so, even though I had them going all the way to the finals, which was probably really high on the copium level of, how much you investing into just one player, the fact is, yes, you could say, well, Dame got hurt. Well, Dame was hurt at the end of the regular season, and I picked them not thinking they were getting anything from Dame because due to the medical nature of it, you see blood clots and you don't expect that person to be back anytime realistically soon. It was great that Dame was able to come back. It's obviously horrible that he ended up tearing his ACL, and now he's going to be out for not just he missed the playoffs, but he's going to be out all of next year as well. And the way that the game ended with Tyrese Haliburton's dad, that was weird. But Giannis just didn't get it done. And I was wrong. The Bucks not only were not even they weren't even close to being a finals team. They were a first round exit team. And we have to be fair. Now, Giannis is already a made man. Multiple MVPs, a defensive player of the year, an all-NBA first team guy several times, an NBA champion, has 50 points to close out a final series. All these things are true. And all these things are why his resume is as great as it is. You also can't spend the back half of your career losing in the first round. We look at Durant funny because of this. that if you look at those post-Warrior years, we have a bunch of losing the first round, missed the playoffs, what's going on, multiple teams. Now, Giannis only has the one team. We'll see what happens this offseason. But we are going to look at you funny when you are an all-time talent, you are an all-time player, but we're not getting out of the first round, and we've only got one notable playoff run. Now, that one notable playoff run is going to keep you ahead of guys like James Harden, who's got no all-time playoff run. He's going to keep you ahead of guys, depending on how you want to feel about Durant post-Warriors, and because a lot of people don't consider those Warrior titles, they don't view them in the same light. Okay, we'll see. Maybe people can have you above or below Durant, but you can't be first-round exit year after year, especially the way you're losing, man. Like, it was the wall, you beat the wall, and now what's the wall? Because he's still averaging crazy numbers. He's still going, I think in this series he averaged 33, 15, and 5. Like, Giannis is still putting up numbers, but he's just not nearly as impactful. I say this with LeBron, as we have, and what LeBron is doing at 40 is obviously incredible. But LeBron is not even close to the same player. I don't care how many times you put up. He's averaging the same as he did when he was 29. He is not the same player he was when he was 29, and it shows in the impact. It shows in the games won. It shows in the box scores. Like, being impactful, which Giannis should be, besides maybe Jokic exclusively, the most impactful player on the planet. 30-plus points. He gets you 12, 13 rebounds. He plays all NBA first-team defense. He should be the guy who's the most impactful. And yet it just doesn't matter. They lost to the Pacers. Again, I've been kind of shitting on numbers all day. Didn't matter what Giannis's numbers were. Giannis was not impact. The most impactful player on the Bucks was Gary Trent Jr. That can't happen if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, my hard left thing I was the most wrong about last week. When I was predicting the NBA playoffs, I had the Bucks going all the way to the finals. I was wrong. Sorry, I was wrong. I eat it. HardRight. Excuse me. Oh, and I wanted to also give some love to the Pacers because I was really wrong on the Pacers too, and they deserve some love from me. I was wrong. I thought they were going to lose in the first round, not just to the Bucks. I think they're going to lose this round. I'm not as high on the Pacers as I probably should be. They are clearly playing in a way that is proving me wrong, but let's see what this time next week. And if they win another series, then they'll be it. My hard right, though, has to be same way, staying in the NBA playoffs, has to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. All I heard was not just because of memes, but Lakers in 5, Lakers in 5, Lakers in 5, Lakers in 5. And I acknowledged this conversation. I didn't play into it as much as everybody else. But what was going to happen to any team playing the Lakers if you are 1-1 in a series against them, games close in the fourth quarter, and LeBron and Luka are walking you down? That's going to be tough for anybody, except apparently Anthony Edwards, who was in a 1-1 series against LeBron and Luka and dominated every single fourth quarter up until Game 5, where he did not have a great Game 5, but he was so great leading into that series that even Game 5, we went 0-11 of 3. The Wolves still won the fourth quarter. This shout out to Rudy Gobert, who was never the reason I was going to pick the Timberwolves. I did say he was going to be better than people. He was better than what people thought, but I would have never predicted that 2020 game from him. I don't think anybody could have. What the Wolves did, though, was show they don't. Anthony Edwards is ready to take that face of the NBA step, whether he wants it or not, and let them beat the Warriors. And then on his resume, we have knocked out KD, knocked out Jokic, knocked out LeBron, Luka, knocked out Steph, Jimmy in a 2-year span. It doesn't matter if I said this last week. It's not going to matter if he wants to be the face of the NBA. He will be the face of the NBA. And the Wolves, what they did in that series, they dominated the Lakers on the glass. They dominated the Lakers when it came time in the fourth quarter. And again, we've been shitting on numbers all day. I don't know I know they 0 for 11 because it was noticeable. I don't know if Anthony Edwards' stat line in the first round was better than Luka Doncic. Luka had a bunch of crazy first quarters and was getting you 25 plus. LeBron, I don't know his exact numbers, but LeBron was playing well. Especially LeBron was playing really well on defense, especially for a 40-year-old. But Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle, who was a notable playoff underperformer, he was playing his ass off. Gobert, another notable playoff underperformer, he was playing his ass off. And the Timberwolves, who I had going all the way to the NBA Finals, who now we'll see when we revisit the bracket at the end of the show if I have them going all the way now, since the Bucks, who I did predict winning, they are clearly out. Again, we're wrong sometimes. But again, just because you have LeBron James, and just because you have Luka Doncic, and just because you have Austin Reeves, who, welcome to LA officially, Austin Reeves, you were the best third option in the world 2 months ago, and now LA fans want to see you traded. So welcome to LA, you're officially a Laker. The Wolves, Edwards, Randall, Gobert, the depth, Walker, McDaniels. Shout out to the kids that are like, wow, we're in the double big era of basketball. Power forward and center have been positions forever. LeBron during his prime was so great, he made the game positionless, but power forward and center have existed forever. You didn't recreate the wheel. Don't consider yourself that lucky or that special. So the Wolves dominated the Lakers, and Anthony Edwards said it best. He said it felt great because everybody was saying Lakers in 5, and the Wolves won in 5. And, again, I'm picking them to win this series against the Warriors, seeing how far they can go. This Wolves team is for real. Anthony Edwards is for real. This is a great, great team, a great, great story, and we're going to see how far this goes. But hard left, hard right. I was wrong about one side of the bracket horribly, the Bucks losing the first round. I feel very confident about my western side of the bracket with the Wolves advancing. When we come back, we're going to talk about some physicality in the NBA, as well as why sheduer is going to have a chance to really end the conversation. And again, we are expressing why sports are just fantastic in so many ways. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And it is hour 2 of HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody that is tuning in with me today. Again, we are officially on 2-hour episodes, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6. Don't forget to also go check out Group Chat Podcast. That is dropping every Sunday. A&M drops every Thursday night, and 90 feet as well. Don't forget to check those out. We got everything you need here at HardFoul. We got anime, we got sports, we got baseball, we got hip-hop. We got it all, man. Appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. Shout out to all 1,040 of you that are subscribed, and shout out to all of you that will soon be subscribed. Catch the subscribers before they hatch. Speak it into existence. Oh, man. So, it is hour 2, which means we got to get to hard right, hard left. But before we do that, let me just say, no, we're just going to get into it. It is another Monday on this beautiful earth. That means we start off hard right, hard left. What day on this beautiful earth? Another Monday. It is. reality in the NBA, first round, I feel very confident about my western side of the bracket with the Wolves advancing. I'm gonna get this the trade. Adam Silver got a veto. Adam don't do much, but Adam, if you do something, you get this the trade. You got a veto. But I'm gonna propose it anyway. I'm gonna send LaMelo and 2 first rounders for Ja.
Ja who? Rule? LaMelo and 2 first rounders for Ja.
And I'm gonna re-up with Miles Bridges. I know he just signed a contract extension, but I'm re-upping again.
That nigga said we going to take Tupac off of death row and put him on cash money. Like, nigga, what?
Listen, I don't want Ja Morant and Miles Bridges knowing near each other.
You put that nigga on what's the shit called? You put him on fucking Jay Prince label.
Rap a lot.
He put him on Rap a Lot. That nigga took him off. He took him off Death Row and put him on Rap a Lot.
Adam, who says no? Who says no?
Calling that shit gangland.
The police, nigga.
Hey man, you gotta start the morning off with some good laughs. Appreciate everybody as always. So, sports are so cool because it doesn't matter what you say. The reality is the actions of these individuals are going to take over, and that's how we have true storylines. We don't have to make up things. We don't have to sit there and say, blasphemous stuff. We don't have to create narratives. You can just watch the sport play out, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. So, Sheduer Sanders dropped to the 5th round. And I talked about this a bit earlier in the show, but that is truly a historic fall from a guy who was a projected first-round pick, barring injuries. Again, Brady was never a projected first-round pick. The other guys, Brock Purdy was never a projected first-round pick. Kurt Warner obviously went undrafted, was never a projected first-round pick. Sheduer was a projected first-round pick for the majority of the last 2 years. And everybody knew he didn't have a great college support team. Everybody knew, his stats were going to look different than the other guys because besides Travis, there was no other truly elite talent. And his offensive line and his running game, his O-line got better this last year, was still not great compared to what other guys have, and his running game was literally last in college football 2 consecutive years. So he played under circumstances that were not ideal for a guy who would be going in the first round. Again, Mac Jones got drafted in the first round, and look at the talent he played with at Alabama. So, now what's cool, this is what I want to emphasize, this is what's cool about sports. Sheduer will have a chance that no matter what you think of him, no matter what is said about him, no matter what is reported about him, he is going to get a chance to play. I truly believe this. Tony, I know, has pushed back on me a lot on this, that Sheduer is not going to get a fair shake because of the situation that went down. Here's my belief. Kevin Stefanski and the GM, Andrew Berry, are on the hot seat. Now, I think they're both really good at their job. Look at the Browns roster. Look at how they've drafted. Look at Stefanski when he's had just competent quarterback play. Again, this team was in the playoffs 2 years ago with a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. I keep calling Joe 40. I think he's 40 now, but old-ass Joe Flacco. If they open up camp, you're going to see the difference between him and Gabriel, the other rookie. Kenny Pickett, I don't think is serious. And Joe Flacco, what are we doing? Sheduer is going to be able to show in camp, in the preseason, and I'm not saying he's going to be the day one starter, but you're going to see it. You're going to see the flashes, you're going to see the throws, and guys recognize guys. The guys that are great, or even just really good. Myles Garrett is going to see Sheduer make some throws and go, oh, yeah, that's it. David Njoku is going to see some throws and go, yeah, it's better than what the other guys are doing. Denzel Ward. Cleveland has talent. This offensive line, what they're blocking for. They're going to watch Sheduer make some of these throws, some of the escapability, which I understand he's not Lamar Jackson, but he's got some mobility. He's able to make some throws on the run. Guys are going to see that and go, why are we even giving Kenny Pickett practice reps? Why are we employing Joe Flacco at his advanced age? I think Sheduer is just flat out better than Gabriel, and that'll play itself out. He was better than Gabriel in college. I think he's going to be better than him in the pros. And again, I'm not saying he's going to be the day one starter. But you get to game 6, game 7, and what if the Browns are, and I expect them to be, especially if they start Flacco or Pickett or Gabriel. What if they're 2-5? You think that franchise, those fans are going to be calling for Sheduer, and the head coach and GM who are going to be on the hot seat, one of the things you can do if you're on the hot seat is go, we know supposedly the owner was involved in picking Sheduer. Let's get your guy out there. And if he performs and he plays and he does what he's supposed to do, he's going to be their starting quarterback, especially in that middle part of the season. And if he plays and he produces and he shows everybody he absolutely was every bit the first-round quarterback that, call it what it is, the NFL just decided he wasn't. The owners decided we're not going to do this. We want to make a message. We want to improve a point. If he plays and produces the guys that can actually play, the guys who are actually talented, the guys who can actually ball, they find their way on a field. Yes, there are some circumstances that need to happen and work in your place. Tom Brady and I don't like using Tom as a comparison for much, but Tom would have found his way to the field. I don't know how it would have been. The story would have been different. His career would obviously be different. He doesn't have 7 rings if he's not in New England, how stuff played out. But I truly believe he would have found his way to the field. And I truly believe sheduer will find his way to the field. sheduer will get a chance to produce. sheduer will get a chance to play. And he will show everybody, yes, he might be brash. Yes, he might be more charismatic than some teams want to deal with. But he will absolutely be a starting quarterback. He will absolutely be one of the best 32 quarterbacks on the planet. And he will absolutely be playing for the Cleveland Browns, starting for them by midseason. And that's why sports are cool. Because the guys that actually can play will be given a chance to play, given a chance to produce, especially when your head coach and GM are both on the hot seat, and they're not going to have a choice. They can't just roll out and throw the season away because Flacco's too old, Pickett's just not good enough, Gabriel's just not good enough. They're going to have to play the best guy because you are going to lose this locker room, which you already are in potential of losing. You got to play the best guys. This is how Russell Wilson came to be in Seattle. Just signed Matt Flynn to a contract. Pete Carroll's looking at camp and goes, Russell's better. Why am I going to risk my job just because we gave this guy money? Russell's better. He's the better player. Start him. The rest is history. Look at Geno. Look at all the guys who've had resurgent careers. Baker, Geno, Sam Darnold. You get an offensive head coach, Stefanski's there. Guys who were doubted, or not just doubted, but played their way into position where they earned the doubt. sheduer is going to play. He is going to be the starter. I would say, I'd confidently, if I was a betting man, I would say by week 6. Sorry, if I was a betting man, I would bet week 8. I'm going to, for my confidence level, I think it'll be even sooner than that. Again, let the Browns get off to a 1-4 start. You are going to hear the fans scream for it. The owner's going to want it if he supposedly was involved as they believe. And the head coach and GM who are on the hot seat are going to be forced to play the best players because you don't have a choice at 1-4. You don't have a choice at 2-5. That's why sports are cool. sheduer will get his chance. Moving on from that, we have to talk about the excuse me, the physicality, or the I've been going, not the physical, I'm sorry, the stats in the NBA and the stats in sports, but specifically the NBA that I've been going on about all day. We got to stop. This ain't baseball. Baseball is probably the only sport where you could say if you have 9 300 hitters, you're a great team. Stats could just almost without a doubt prove you got 9 guys all hitting 300. You are a great offense. You got 5 guys on your pitch staff. Everybody's ERA is under 3.5. You're amazing. You're the Seattle Mariners. In almost every other sport, stats are not a determining factor of how great you are. I started the show off talking about Steph being superhuman. Steph only had 1, max 2 games. Statistically, you would have looked at and said, oh yeah, that was a Superman performance. But if you actually watch the games, these guys who are so polarizing on offense that teams have to collapse their defense just to deal with him. When Jokic in Game 7, Jokic isn't having the crazy game. Jamal Murray had statistically a better Game 7. Michael Porter Jr. was close. Aaron Gordon had a great statistical Game 7. But if you watch that game, Jokic was still the best player on the court. They had to pay so much attention to him. They have to react and overplay him so much because if he gets going statistically, it's a 50, 15, and 10 game. Versus, I don't know what his numbers were in Game 7, but he was the focal point of the offense, and he was basically this big distraction because the defense was overcommitting to him, and that's what allowed Aaron Gordon to get put back dunks. That's what allowed Jamal Murray to get open threes. That's allowed Michael Porter Jr. to get open on the wing. You have to be able to watch a game And we're going to close out the day talking about Greg Popovich and the amazing career he's had. And I quote this all the time. I've already quoted it earlier in the show. When you can look at a game and go, are we just looking at who won the three-point line? That's not fun basketball. It can be a part of a fun game, but just that alone is not fun basketball. When you look at, and this is why I love what the physicality is doing, because the physicality is not allowing guys to just be open for three or just to run up, shoot another three. We're not getting these 43-point games in the playoffs because those aren't fun for anyone to watch. We want to see back screens, motion, plays ran, guys in the post. I've said this before. There's an art to watching sports that we like the superhuman aspect. Guys who do things that we could never do. We all feel like we could sit there and shoot 33s a game, 43s a game. And the NBA seems to be aware of that because whether it's the officials making the call or the league office called it in, guys are allowed. Guys are far more physical. Guys are playing a lot more contact, which is then creating, when you're being extra physical, you got to be extra physical with your screens. You got to be extra physical with your motion. You can't just run around. You know, when you've got Dylan Brooks hanging all over you, I'm not the biggest Draymond Green fan, but this is where Draymond is great. Draymond is going to be extra physical, extra chippy. He's going to be yelling at guys. And I might not love it. I might be critical of it. But to deny the results, I'd be an idiot. So the extra physicality and the stats, like if you just want to fall in love with the numbers, yeah, fine. James Harden has the same points per game in elimination, or is within a point of Kobe and Dwayne Wade. Where's his titles? Where's his playoff? Forget titles. Where's his playoff success at all? The numbers just don't matter. Not in the playoffs. Stats matter, but they can't be. You can't be a calculator. Again, baseball is the only sport. You got 9 guys hitting 300, fine, you're great. You got 5 guys ERA under 3.5, you're great. Everywhere else besides baseball, watch the games, please, and thank you. When we come back, we do our best to put the amazing career of Greg Popovich into the best that we can. This is HardFoul Radio. We will be back momentarily. And it is ours. And the way that the game ended with Tyrese Haliburton's dad, that Dame was able to come back. It's obviously horrible that he ended up tearing his ACL, and now he's going to be out for not just, he missed the playoffs, but he's going to be out all of next year as well. And the way that the game ended with Tyrese Haliburton playoffs. He's going to be out all of next year as well. And the way that the game ended with Tyrese Haliburton's dad, that was weird. But Giannis just didn't get it done. And I'm joined, as always, by the Father Willis in the building. How we doing, man?
Sensational.
How was drinking after 40? I hear that shit hits harder.
Drinking after 40 is crazy. I never said I was. First off, I'm 32. As of like a week and a half ago. Second, I didn't even say I was drinking. I just said I was outside.
So you gonna convince everybody you was outside and had no alcoholic beverages at all?
Nah. I'm just saying I never said I was drinking. I ain't say I wasn't either.
I understand, understandable. This nigga said in the text message before we got on this shit talking about like, yo, I'm about to have a macchiato.
I did not say I was about to have a macchiato. Tony said something about Italian, so I just Italian style coffee.
Oh man, don't forget to check out Group Chat Podcast dropping every Sunday, 90 Feet dropping every Thursday, A&M dropping every Thursday. 90 Feet's gonna drop every Friday morning. Sorry, A&M every Friday morning, 90 Feet every Thursday night. Getting my dates here. Tony is joining us tomorrow. Will joining us on a Wednesday. A lot of fun. Enjoying again 2-hour set, 2-hour show. As long as I can make sure I get my ass out of bed. Appreciate you guys for getting your ass out of bed and joining me here today. We have to end this show today talking about, in my opinion, the greatest head coach in the history of the National Basketball Association, and a guy who has a real strong argument for being on the Mount Rushmore of all-time coaches for any sport. So Greg Popovich, a lot due to medical reasons. Obviously, we've heard about all the medical issues that have happened over the last year. Retired from the coach of the San Antonio Spurs, and he is now going to go be the team president. Listen, some things, we say this all the time, and they're overrated. We're never going to see that again. The reality is most of the time, we will see it again. You will see other all-time great players. You will see other all-time great moments. And while it might be special and unique to you, the reality is we will see it again. And we may even see an improved version of it. Greg Popovich might have one of the few careers and few stats that you will just never see again. Yes, he has 5 NBA championships. Another coach will probably win 4 to 5 NBA championships. That could be done again. Where I think is the most impressive statistic and the most defining thing of Greg Popovich is 22 consecutive playoff appearances. Now, uniquely enough and weirdly enough, it's actually tied for the longest streak ever of making the playoffs, but that's with the team that is just from an era that does not exist anymore. I want to keep in context. LeBron James just finished year 22. LeBron has missed the playoffs multiple times. Greg Popovich did not miss the playoffs for 22 consecutive years, and at no point did he have a LeBron James. Now, he added Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward ever, one of the greatest players ever. But once you get past Tim, and I know he had Kawhi as Kawhi was starting to emerge into the player he is, the same way I was very critical early on of the Golden State team where I said, Clay and Draymond are not Hall of Famers, but they're going to get there because of the success of the team. Now, Clay, I think, is proven to be a Hall of Famer in his own right. He's top 5 in threes made all time. He has turned into a great player. He was a great two-way player at his peak. Draymond's a Hall of Famer because of the Warriors' success. Ginobili and Parker are Hall of Famers because of the Spurs' success. Greg Popovich took consistently teams that were not more talented than either the Lakers, some of those Mavs teams that he had to go up against, some of those Phoenix Suns teams. Consistently took teams that were not nearly the most talented team in their conference and got them all the way, not just into the playoffs, but deep playoff runs. He had to play with the Grizzlies, with that grindhouse team with Zach Randolph, Tony Allen. He had to, one of the most impressive championships ever is the 2014 Spurs. In 2013, it's the shot heard around the world, Ray Allen, and it's this heartbreaking, devastating loss. And that could have been that was our last gas, and we just didn't quite get there. And yet, Popovich took that Spurs team with an old Duncan, old Parker, old Ginobili. Kawhi was young, wasn't quite the player he is now. Heartbreaking loss. And he got that team back to the finals and won. That's incredible. Think of the amount of 50-win seasons Greg Popovich has. Greg Popovich, I would say this one of the most incredible stories. The shortened season after the lockout. 66 games. Spurs can't win 50 games this year. It was all over. It's like, oh, we're about to see one of the longest streaks ever. And the Spurs can't win 50 games. 66 game season. They go 50-16. Do you know how dominant you have to be to do that? Longevity, sometimes we view it as a weird, with players, we don't love giving the baseball player who gets 3,000 hits, but it takes him 20 seasons versus we normally like the peak of a player. In basketball is the same way. LeBron's longevity is amazing, but we love the people that consider Michael Jordan the GOAT, myself included. It's that peak of Jordan, the 6 titles, the MVPs, the defensive players of the year, all the 30-plus points per games. The peak of an NBA player and the peak of an athlete, we normally value a little higher than longevity. The opposite is true in coaching. In coaching, longevity is the ultimate sign of how great you are. Think of what the NBA was. Just adapting is hard for people. Think of what the NBA was in 98, 99 when Greg Popovich got there. He had Tim Duncan, David Robinson. And when you compare all these all-time coaches, by the way, they all have Hall of Famers. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, it's the tower lineup. They're playing big. They're playing slow. They're playing probably the best defense in the NBA. They're relying on their 2 bigs. Does it. Builds a juggernaut. They win a title. The Spurs are great. Then the Shaq-Kobe years come in. Obviously, Shaq and Kobe start dominating. And then they was like, hey, we can't beat Shaq the traditional way, so let's start running more of a motion offense because we need to get Shaq involved. We need to make him play defense. We can't just let him sit there and be 30 points per game and elbowing our guys out of the way and being the big dominant monster that he is. He transitioned to go to the mid-2000s. That was his offense, all 2000s. This great motion, the same way the Warriors and Steve Kerr play, that came from Popovich. And then even though he hated it, he adapted to the new 3-point style of the NBA. We're going to be a 3-point shooting team. We can still play defense. We can still have motion, but we will adapt to being a 3-point shooting team. Look at how many college coaches struggled when it came from one-and-done style of players. Mike Krzyzewski had a drought during the later end of his career because he didn't want to deal with the one-and-dones, and then he realized the one-and-dones are kicking my ass and kicking me out of the tournament. I'm going to go start getting one-and-dones. You never had that with Popovich. Popovich easily transitioned into each phase, coached for 20-plus years. Every single phase of the NBA, he was ready for. Even as we got to the end of his career and the Spurs were no longer a good team, when it came time and the Spurs had a chance to get the number 1 overall draft pick and it was Victor Wembanyama, what was the first thing almost unanimously said across the league? Oh, he gets popped. That's a great spot for him. Spurs didn't have the talent to prove that was a great spot. The Spurs didn't have the roster to justify, oh, this is where a number 1 pick should want to go. They weren't the city or the team. Nothing was, oh my gosh, how amazing of an opportunity is San Antonio. But they had Popovich. And that alone, the NBA community, people that love basketball were like, that's a great spot for him. Yes, there's the Tony Parker connection because they were French and he was on the team Tony Parker owns in France. But the reason why Victor to the Spurs was just it felt perfect. It felt like the marriage that needed to happen is because of who their head coach is. You've also got to give Popovich, on a personal note, just give him some points for the fact of when he would do some of these things and he would talk and he would speak out and you realize it's a team in the middle of Texas and it maybe, the things he's saying is not going to be as beloved. He still did it. He didn't care. He was going to speak his mind. He was going to speak his truth. He was going to speak what he felt was in his heart and what was on his mind. He also has just these incredible moments. When the more legendary you are, the more moments you have. And even small things feel like great moments. And even recently. Kawhi goes back to San Antonio. Spurs fans are booing the crap out of Kawhi, and fans are allowed to boo. I'm not going to tell a fan don't boo. I'm not going to tell a fan that you're not allowed to do this. Look what Popovich grabs the mic and says, hey, that's not what we do. We're not going to be the team that boos. We're not going to be the fan base that's yelling and throwing stuff. Be classy. That's not us. He had to deal with Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, the Suns with Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, the Mavs, also Steve Nash, Dirk, Jason Terry, Shawn Marion. He had to deal with, in the Eastern Conference, if you got to the finals, he had to deal with the Pacers, the Nets with the young Jason Kidd, Kenyon Martin. Had to deal with the Knicks, their best season in the last 30 years. He played against the Celtics with their big three. Again, young LeBron, old LeBron, middle of his career LeBron, the Heat. Dealt with it all. Adapted with the best of them. 5 NBA championships. 22 consecutive playoff appearances. The 50-win streak. And a guy who will close out on here. Maybe the best thing you could say about someone. What do your peers think of you? I say this all the time when it comes to players. I do when I'm ranking players or evaluating players. What your peers say about you means something. And there's not a coach or a player who did not say, players are like, I'd love to play for Pop. And he was a hard ass. Wasn't like he was this, super nice, happy-go-lucky, friendly players coach guy. He was a hard ass. He'd be screaming at Tim Duncan. But he always said, thank you, Tim Duncan, for allowing me to coach you. Because I know I don't have my career without you. Even gave Tim a chance to come sit on the bench. Now, Tim Duncan didn't stay on the bench, didn't like it, whatever the reason was. But the respect his peers and the respect the players had, look at just at the reaction in the last 24 to 48 hours. Guys saying, man, because Pop wasn't on the sideline for most of this season. Man, I wish I could just go hug him before the game or after the game just one last time. Man, I wish I could play against him just one more time. Those reactions, you can't fake that. That's real respect. That is genuine for the guy who is, in my opinion, and there's some great candidates. Red Auerbach's resume is amazing. Phil Jackson's resume may be the best. Steve Kerr's got a resume that's incredible. Pat Riley's resume is incredible. But if you ask me, gun to my head, who was the greatest head coach in NBA history, I'm going to be able to say Popovich, and I'm not going to stutter. I'm not going to hold my tongue. Greg Popovich is the greatest head coach in NBA history. 5 titles, 22 consecutive playoff berths, all the 50-win seasons, the respect, the moments, the accolades, the legend, Greg Popovich. Congrats on an amazing career, and congrats on your role as team president now with the San Antonio Spurs, however long you want to do that. And I think I speak for everyone. All we really want to see, and he should get a standing ovation game 1 of next season. All we really want to see is just get healthy, man. Get healthy, be in good spirits, and thank you for the last almost 25 years of head coaching. Greg Popovich, the GOAT, retires. With that being said, appreciate everybody, as always, for tuning in. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, Tony's joining